Hey guys, welcome back to Lisa's Study Guides. Last year I did a very popular video about 10 English study hacks, and today in 2017 I am back again ready to give you guys an updated version, 10 new English study hacks for you guys. So if you haven't watched that other video before, then feel free to do so. I'll pop it up in the card up above there for you to have a look, and you'll notice that quite a few things have changed. I've changed my hair. It used to be very blonde and now it's very dark. When breaking down prompts, we try to explore the ideas and brainstorm as much as possible. However, because we're only one person, we can sometimes be limited with the number of ideas that we have. I'd recommend writing down all the possible different points, then see how you could possibly argue against your own points. This gives you the flexibility to start looking from different interpretations and offer even further insight into the book that you're writing the essay on. Number 2, you don't always have to write a full essay. So whenever students come to me and give me full essays, what I usually find is I can already pick up their areas or places of improvement that can be made within the first introduction or first body paragraph. And so this is very much the same case for your teachers. So save yourself the time, be more efficient and productive by only handing in short pieces of work each time. So whether that's writing an introduction and handing that in, then awaiting feedback, and then continuing on with your essay once you've gotten feedback on whether or not your ideas are on the right track. See, that would be something that's a lot wiser than going ahead with a prompt that you're not so sure about, writing a full essay only to have the teacher give you feedback that you haven't answered the prompt at all. Handing in short pieces of work is really efficient because your teacher can pinpoint your areas of weaknesses, give you that feedback back, and then you can go ahead, modify those points, and hopefully improve for the next time you give your teacher that work. That way you're always steadily climbing upwards, little steps at a time, which is a lot more efficient than long drags that only improve a little bit, like that. Number 3, it is never about the numbers. Every year students come to me with the same questions. How many quotes should I have per paragraph? How many sentences should I have with each paragraph? How many paragraphs should I have? How many essays should I do? It's always how many. But with English, always remember that it's a humanities subject, and it's more so about your ideas and the ideas that you're expressing. At the end of the day, English doesn't boil down to a 1,000-word count essay. It's really about the quality of the work that you're presenting, the originality of your ideas, and how in depth you go with exploring those ideas. Number 4, explain it to a 5-year-old. So last time I did this video on English study hacks, I told you guys that you could go ahead and teach your parents the text, or even teach the wall your text, or your teddy bear. It doesn't matter who it is, but articulating your understanding of the book that you're studying or the film, whatever it is, really helps you to consolidate your knowledge and help you recognize where the areas of missing gaps are with your knowledge. But the one thing I do want you to remember on top of that is that the people who you're teaching, almost teach it to them as though they're kids. You want to be able to explain it in a really simple and straightforward way. Why? It's not that we're, reducing the book that we're studying and making it something suitable for a 5-year-old, but it's a way to force yourself to think about how you can deliver that information in a clear, concise, and straightforward manner. So with English or literature, the more convoluted the thoughts are in your head, the more that convolution will translate onto paper. I just felt like being French for a second. Yet when you are able to process your thoughts in a very clear manner, that's when that clarity will translate onto your essays and therefore push you towards that A+. Number 5, be philosophical. So one of my pet peeves with students is when they write in essays the theme, the character, because what this shows is that the student only recognizes the book as simply a book. Now, take a moment and step into your teacher's shoes. You teach English or literature or whatever humanities subject that we're talking about because you love the topic. You're not there to get students to rote learn a book, which is just about some story and then getting them to just regurgitate them. You want your students to take away some sort of message from the book so that they are brighter thinkers, so that they are more intelligent when facing the world. And so even though that might sound really cliche or kind of even lame, this is exactly what you want to aim for. We don't want our students to only talk about the characters because they're just a construction in the text. Acknowledge the reasons why the author has written a book and what purpose that's for. So a really easy explanation for this are non-fiction books. So I Am Malala is written by Malala Yousafzai, and she co-wrote it with 2 other authors, but it's essentially a non-fiction book. And the point of her sharing this story with us is to share a story that is so heartbreaking and yet inspirational at the same time. And as readers, we take a really strong message away from this. The message that I took away from it was that I really appreciate what I have in life, to appreciate it every day, and to go ahead and fight for whatever I wanted to do in my life, especially as a girl boss, and especially with Malala, she empowers women. She tells us that we're able to do whatever we want to, and that is through her actions. So, having said that though, this is more obvious when it's a non-fiction book. What about if it was a fiction book? This book is basically about a dystopia, and the characters in there are fictional, the setting is fictional, but there's a point to the story. And the message that you can take away from it is to understand that this type of dystopian or totalitarian world could really exist one day, and that it could be really scary because it's something that really is quite possible, and for us to be more critical thinkers of our everyday world, and also to retain our individuality. So remember, at the end of the day, that English is a humanities subject. Humanities, human, therefore people. So discuss your text as though it's a real world and as though it's a real thing, and take meaning away from it. Number 6, English is not just about writing, it's also about reading. So sometimes what students do is they will read their book and then they'll go straight into writing. But a lot of the times you will need to do extra research on your own in order to be really successful. So it's completely up to you how successful you want to be in English. But let's just say if you wanted to go for A+ and you go girl or you go boy, then go for it. And the way to do this is to start learning more. So before, how I talked about Brave New World and how it's a dystopia. Do you know what a dystopia is? Could you go and find out more about the different types of dystopian worlds that are out there? What are other books that have talked about the same thing, and how have they presented their worlds? Sometimes when you go out and research more about other books, and sometimes things that are not even directly related to the book, so see the connection that we used was just a dystopia, often you'll be able to come back to your book with a lot more insight. This leads me into number 7, which is thought work and deep work, not just memorization. So if you are like me, I used to be very much a maths and science student, and so I was very good at rote learning things. I memorized formulas, I memorized everything, and that's how I succeeded for a really long time. But then when it came to English, I realized that I had to develop a new way of thinking, and that was to be more critical of what was in front of me. So just remember that even though your teacher teaches you something in class, even though you read it in a certain way in study guides, even though there might be YouTube videos or whatever on the internet that says a certain thing about this book or views a character in a certain way, remember that you don't have to view them in that same way. Often that's the way that will lead to my point, which is the next point, number 8, originality. So originality of ideas is extremely important in English. Teachers or examiners don't sit there reading all these essays just to reread the same thing. They're just like us, they get bored too. And so the way to stimulate their minds, their intellectual juices, is to go out there and say something new, Say something that is very individual to yourself. Of course, this can be very difficult with books that have been done over 100 times or films that have been out for years and years and has just been analyzed to bits and pieces. But if you can just find even the smallest way to tweak the information to work for you, then definitely go for it. How do you do that? Goes into my point number 9, find specific passages. Rather than just using the quotes that you see everywhere, go and find your own passages that work for you, that maybe aren't as popular and not used as often, but they're just as relevant and just as valuable when you use them in essays. My last point is number 10, consistency. English is a subject where it's not an overnight cramming session that will pull you into the A+ phase. English is very much a progressive subject, which means that it really does take time for you to process the information and get better and better. And this can take weeks, this can take months, it can take years. So I know it can be really hard to work on English every single day, especially if you're doing other subjects as well and you get caught up with social events, with hobbies. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, then write what you can. What I used to do was I would come home and write an introduction one day. The next day I'd do paragraph number 1, and then the next day paragraph number 2, for example. And then that way I was consistently writing, like nothing was kind of being forgotten or getting rusty. And it also supports my point before, where you just do little chunks of work, which is what makes it really efficient and productive in the long run. So if you found this video helpful, then please go ahead and like this video so I know to release more hack style videos in the future. And put down in the comments below, what type of hacks would you like me to write about? If there's something that's not out there available for you just yet, then hopefully I'll be able to do a video for you. One extra thing that you can do to help prompt you to remember to write every day is to put a little reminder into your phone. And I actually talked about this in last week's video about organizational skills. So if you wanted to check it out, you know where to go.